Good afternoon, Reds. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. You're tuned into Pros and Cons, a show where we pick at the positives and nag at the negatives. Very interesting game last night, wasn't it? Started off with a bang again after doing it against Ipswich, almost turning to Brentford a little bit by scoring these early goals. And then you always feel like, well, we've scored an early goal. The inevitable is going to happen where they probably score another one, but then they took it to another level and ended up scoring 2 goals and got back into the game. Well, didn't get back into the game, went back on top of the game and was winning it for a bit. So you had obviously the first goal that we scored, very good pressing from Rasmus. I said at the time, I don't think the defender should have played the ball to the keeper. If you looked at the angles, I thought Rasmus was very close to him, although the keeper did make an absolute meal of it as well. Done well. Keeper held on to Rasmus like Jack and Rose in fucking Titanic, just clinging on to him, and Garnacho anticipated it, got a goal, which is great, but then they scored 2 within 5 minutes, 18 minutes later, I think it was, after Garnacho's goal. They go and score 2 within 5. A couple of shaky moments at the back, and we get punished. You had Tyrell Malacia, who gets beat in a foot race, and there's a couple of things I want to pick at on that in terms of the negatives, which I'll get into in a moment. But just at the stroke of half time, Mazraoui decides to turn into, I'm going to start calling him Lionel Mazraoui, because he's just dribbling. All aspects of the game is phenomenal, but he beats 2 or 3 players, puts in a great cross for Rasmus, and look, it's not like it's an easy chance to finish. It's a really, really difficult opportunity, which he takes on his weak foot as well and places it in the bottom right corner, which is like a proper poacher's goal. So we're back into it. You go into the half, you come back out. We get another goal, which comes through some kind of combination between Mason Mount and Ugarte, squares it across the box for Rasmus to get his brace, and we end up winning the game. But it wasn't a complete performance by any stretch of the imagination, but there are a good few positives I want to discuss, and there's a couple of tweaks that I want to mention. So as always, when I do these, you guys, if I miss any positives or any negatives in regards to this performance last night, get them in the comments and we'll discuss them. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, but like I said, if I have, put your opinions in. So the first one I'm going to kick it off with is mobility and positioning, which is something I've been looking a close eye on for the past couple of games. I think we know, and because Amarin referenced it before the game, we know Bodo Glimt are runners. We know they are physical, and obviously they've played together for a long, long time, so they know each other's patterns and waves, and you saw that in the first couple of goals. I thought in the game we lost quite a few kind of one-foot races, which was the Malacia one was kind of the obvious one for that, but you had Leacher pushing up, which I'll get onto in a minute. Physical duels, we lost like quite a few. So as everyone keeps referencing and keeps saying, these boys need to put a bit more muscle on, need to get fitter if that's even possible. Obviously, that the highly trained athletes, but it seems like even against Bodo, like they had runners off us all the time, which is a big worry for me. And like I said, it's not something you can necessarily improve on significantly. If you're Maguire now, you can't improve on your mobility and pace, can you? It's kind of there. For the younger ones, I would say, yeah, maybe they could, like a Manu or Garnacho, whoever, could put on a bit more timber, a bit more size, a bit more strength, but try not to lose that kind of power. That's where the nutritionists and the kind of PTs or what have you come in. So yeah, in fairness to Malacia, I'm not calling him out or throwing him under a bus for what happened with that goal, because he just got beat purely by pace, and also he's just come back from not playing for 550 days, so you can probably forgive the lad. But that left-hand side specifically is something I would keep an eye on in terms of mobility and positioning. Lissandro stepping in too much. Evans got caught with it against Ipswich. I'm thinking if teams are playing against us now, they'll probably look at that kind of area of weakness and they'll try and target it. For example, we play Everton next. They may move it and then die over to that area, or Dwight McNeil, or do you know what I mean? Because they will get space there, so they need to be careful. But mobility and positioning was one thing that I really wanted to discuss. On to the next one. We collapsing too easy. This has been a theme in Europe for a while. For some bizarre reason, we seem to be extremely fragile when taking the lead. You always feel like they're just going to score instantly. You are never ever comfortable in a game. It just breeds anxiety watching Manchester United, because you know for a fact there's going to be some free kick or penalty or some dodgy decision, or not even dodgy decision. It's just, they're going to, because it happened in Porto, happened against FC Twente, it happened against Fenerbahce. it's happening almost every single game. Even in the Champions League, we'd go a couple up against Galatasaray and then they would bring it back. And I've always said it's very weird to me that. It's very abnormal because we have a lot of players with European experience, like Lissandro Mazraoui, De Ligt, Onana was in the Champions League final. Mason Mount's won the Champions League. You've got a lot of players there with experience, but it doesn't feel like they're experienced. It feels like they're very new and raw. And I can't quite put my finger on it. So obviously, Amorim that's the big thing for him that he'll want to kind of diminish. And I think by getting that win last night and not conceding towards the end, which we could have done with that last minute free kick or maybe a couple of decisions went our way. Had they done that, then that fragile block still there, and so to get that win, it's kind of like, okay, that's a little bit of a release. I believe we play Victoria Pleasant next away in the Europa League. I think we play them. So, away result, go there, get the job done. I don't want to see no more collapsing, please, because it's too difficult. And I'm sure you guys feel the exact same way when watching United. You just can't seem to get a breath a lot of the time because you're just constantly worried that we're going to concede. Okay, this is the last negative that I had. The centre-backs. And again, this kind of tangles with what I was talking about. With Lissandro and De Ligt sometimes, very eager. If you look at Bodo Glimt's first 2 goals, they stemmed from United centre-backs being overly aggressive, impressing the midfield, and then they was leaving gaps for the opposition to exploit. So we need that timing and anticipation. I can't stress it enough. They need to work on that. For the first goal, Mazraoui steps into midfield to intercept, leaves a massive gap. De Ligt and Martinez exposed. And then is it Evjan? I can't say his name. Capitalised with a great finish. Unbelievable finish. Take nothing away from that. But it was a mistake on our part. And then shortly after that, for the second one, Leachot stepped in way too far, leaving Malassi to cover up a shitload of ground, chasing him. He got outpaced, and then they take the lead. So those key errors, and I'm telling you, and there was a couple more that we got away with. You start doing that against Arsenal and teams like this, you'll get punished. And it's a weakness that Amorim needs to fix, and a tactical flaw in the system that may require, new players, new personnel to fix, not necessarily the ones that we've got. So I think this will be something that we might keep seeing for a couple of weeks, but let's just see how that develops. How are we all, by the way? Happy weekend. Big up Steph, who's in the chat. There's quite a few of you in the chat as well. Be vocal, man. Chat to me. It's quiet for a weekend, so I'll love to hear all your opinions. On to the positives, people. Positives, and this is the ones I like to discuss. I don't like staying on the negatives for too long. In-game tactics. Amorim changed the game with some of his decisions. We had Diego Dalot, who replaced Malassia in the second half, who I don't think he was great himself. I'm not saying him specifically, but then Amorim shifted Garnacho to a wider role on the left, which allowed the fullback to kind of move into a more central position where he's more comfortable, occupying the space. And Garnacho seemed like he picked his performance up a little bit because he felt a little bit isolated in the position where he's at. He's better out wide, 1v1 against players, and you could see the change had an immediate impact straight off the bat. Just talk about natural players in natural positions. I actually thought Rashford and Dalot, when they came on, was a little bit sloppy. They gave away the ball a couple of times, but they seemed to improve as the game kind of kicked on. And yeah, obviously Garnacho got himself into more goal-scoring positions, which was great. Failed to find the net a couple of times, which is a bit of an asterisk on his name at the moment. He seems to be a bit wasteful. He's passing it a bit more. He's looking for teammates a little bit more, but you need to see that balance from him. You don't want him to go one way too much. You don't want him to go the other way too much. You know what I'm saying? So, but he's a young kid. He's 19, 20 years old. He'll figure that out. But when he went out over onto that left-hand side, for me, it looked better. Sorry, it's got really, really dry throat. The next positive. Tempo and rhythm. Much, much better. Much better. That was one thing that I kept thinking throughout the game. I was like, I thought you could really start to see some patterns, the way they're shifting it, the fluid kind of rotations. Mazraoui was really key and important to that. The speed that we was moving at was really good at all times. We'd recycle. We'd continue to try and penetrate, whether that was through the left backs or centrally. Looked a lot more cohesive, and like players were starting to find their feet in the system a little bit, as opposed to Ipswich, where the majority of them just look confused. So I'm really interested to see how individuals perform coming into this now. If Mount's going to keep his position, if Ugarte is going to stay in there, when Cobby comes in, how he'll kind of adapt into it. Who's going to go on that left side? Will he stick with Leach, or will he bring Luke Shaw in, Lenny Yoro on the right-hand side? But then what happens to Mazraoui? Because he's been performing so well as that right-sided centre-back. So a lot of question marks, but we've got plenty of games in December and plenty of rotation, haven't we? So that's not really a worry. There'll be enough game time for everyone, I think, because it's so busy in the festive period, as it always is. So, yeah, if we can keep up that tempo, that rhythm, that togetherness, I want to see more of that, because we did lack a lot of that on the Ten Hag, and we did lack a lot of that under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So, second game in and you start to see these, I think that's quite promising. Likewise, with a couple of individuals, I've thrown these two together in the same positive, Højlund and Mazraoui, because I thought they was both the standout performers for me. Outstanding. Højlund with his first start under Amarin, actually, showcasing aggression, intelligence, sharpness in front of goal. Despite a couple of errors with Mazraoui, like I touched on before. I mean, what a player he is, man. Unbelievable. Rasmus, I've not been as fully convinced on, because I think he has moments like this and then he'll fizzle out a little bit and you won't see he'll go missing for a while, which young players do, I accept. But if you're going to be the main number 9 for Manchester United, we need to see it on a more consistent basis, It's not like he's 17, 18. I know he's still relatively young, but there are strikers that age now in the Prem who are doing decent. So he needs to start building his form, building his momentum, and look, Amarin might turn him into a Gyökeres if he continues on this path and continues scoring goals. So that's one to keep an eye on. But Mazraoui, I'm already convinced he's a superstar, absolute superstar. Would get in. I've mentioned this before, but would get in the majority of teams around Europe, genuinely. There is not a thing this man cannot do, whether it's beating a player dribbling. 1v1 is really, really good. He's quick enough to deal with threats. Obviously, positioning wise, you can maybe, if you want to be nitpicking, you can question some of that stuff. But I just thought overall his game is so good. He's such a good player. And I always say this, but had he gone City and he'd be playing for Man City now, everyone would be talking about him like he's a 60, 70 million pound wing back and can't believe that Bayern and what genius move it is by Pep and all this kind of shit. And where are all the people who were saying, well, it's just a player that Ten Hag's worked with before? When they perform like how Mazraoui's doing at the moment, does anyone give a shit? Because I don't. He offers solutions everywhere on the pitch. And he is an absolute coach's dream. So I'm so happy we signed him for the amount that we did as well. One of the best bargains ever, and I'll keep saying it every week. Relentlessly, because he's just a super, super talented player. Manuel Ugarte, he's getting better, innit? He's getting much, much better, in my opinion. I think watching his overall game, it's not like he did anything absolutely outstanding last night, but he did everything to a really good level, putting fires out left, right, centre. Obviously, he got the assist for Højlund's goal, which ultimately won the game. There was nice combinations with Mount there. He had 92% pass accuracy, rarely give the ball away. 5 out of 7 ground duels, 4 tackles, 2 interceptions, and I know it's took a while for him to get going, but I think he's been superb the past couple of games, and I think he, as many people expected, he is going to be that guy in the midfield. It's just who goes alongside him. It's probably going to be Kobbie Mainoo, but I actually didn't mind Bruno dropping deeper a little bit. Now, again, it's one of those on the ball, and his vision helps with progression from the midfield, but also because he's instinctively an attacking player, sometimes behind gets neglected, which we saw. I think it was for the first goal. So, yeah, that combination, we're going to try different partnerships for sure. We're going to try different partnerships at the back and at the front to see what's really clicking. But I think going through the spine of the team, your main ones are going to be Rasmus, Ugarte, De Ligt, Onana. I think that's going to be your spine. And then there'll be tweaks either there. Maybe, I think Mount and Ahmad can come in. I think Cobby alongside Ugarte. And then the other side, the two-sided centre-backs of, you've got De Ligt as the core. Will it be Yoro and Shaw? Will it be Mazraoui? Will Mazraoui push up to wing back? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I mentioned Mason Mount there, and you're damn right, he's on the positives. For anyone who knows me, knows I've been backing this kid for a while. And it's genuinely not a self-preservation thing or anything like that. I'm just happy when you see certain qualities in a player, and he seems to become the scapegoat because Ten Hag had bought him and tried playing him in the midfield with Casemiro and Bruno, which just got overrun instantly in the Spurs game. And then it was like, why have we bought him? Why have we bought him? And I've always understood that argument from fans as why bring him in when you've already got Bruno Fernandes. I completely got that. But one thing I've always said is he is a good player. He's a very good player. And you're seeing it now as that right-sided 10. The way he presses, I thought if you look at him under Tuchel, how he played there, he was integral. Tuchel absolutely loved him. I know fitness is a big issue, but fitness on the pitch and the way he presses is super, super good. Some nice, intelligent flicks, like I touched on before. Understands the game very, very well. He's a good player, man. And still, Mason Mount's only young. I'm pretty sure Mason Mount's, what, 25? 26? Something along the lines of that. So he's still got loads left in the game. It feels like he's been about forever. Let me just double check that, actually. I'm sure he's like 25, isn't he? Yeah, 25 years old, born in 1999. So he's not even getting close to his prime yet, which is crazy. And I know you guys, you're welcome back on this Mason Mount bus if you want to get on it. I know there's a couple of people in the chat who watch this show who have been interested to see how he kind of develops under Amarin, and I thought he was solid yesterday. Not like similar to Ugarte where he just did his job and was effective. He weren't like a Mazraoui level, but I think I like him in that area. And if I'm looking for constants on the pitch, who I would play there, Onana in net for sure, De Ligt, Ugarte, Mazraoui, Ahmad. I don't know about the left wing back spot yet. I'm not entirely sure on that. Højlund. And then it's pickings, really. We'll have to see who fits into the pieces of the puzzle. But it's an interesting jigsaw, isn't it? A very interesting jigsaw. Big up Nick. That's from Steph. Malassia's 45 minutes under his belt provides good balance on the left-hand side. Let's hope Rasmus goes on a goal-scoring run like last season. Early likes, please, people. Live likes are very important. Spot on, Steph. Thank you very much. Random guy with good afternoon. Mazraoui is the best right-back in the league right now. Trent can't defend anyway. It's now time for Amarin to drop Bruno and Onana. Onana? I don't know what you're smoking, Lumen, but bizarre one. And Zedit says Mazraoui is so solid at attacking and defending. Is the complete player. You know what? I would actually challenge that, what random guys just said. Is he the best right back in the Prem right now? Name a better right back. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Ben White's usually at Arsenal is really good standard, but I think he's been injured or he's not been playing, or I haven't seen much of him. Trippier is usually the gold standard as well for Arsenal, but he's been off it for years. I think Livermento's been pretty good for them, but obviously not that level. I'm trying to think. Kyle Walker's dropped off the face of the planet. Who else? Who else is there? Pedro Porro is great going forward, but shit defensively. He's got to be, hasn't he? I think. Liverpool, you say Trent. I know Trent's unreal, but again, Trent's been in and out of the team. He's not been playing week in, week out. So I would say Mazraoui, yeah. I think Mazraoui is probably the best right back in the league. When you move out to Europe, then it's an interesting conversation because you could bring the likes of, I don't know, Jules Koundé into the conversation and guys like this. But I think Mazraoui's definitely up there. Definitely up there. Made 3 fantastic saves, kept us in the game. Didn't you see what Onana did last night? I don't get this Onana thing. I really don't. Needs competition to make him better. The guy's got 5 clean sheets in the Premier League. And he's made saves against in Crystal Palace against Sarr, the double save that was amazing. He did a double save against El Nesri when we played Fenerbahce. He saved a penalty against Southampton against Cameron Archer. And he's had loads of more performances from that. So I don't understand this Onana thing. Genuinely don't get it. But look, if you're worried about Onana in this team, I'm telling you now, he's the least of your worries. The least of your worries. I think Onana, Mazraoui, Ahmad. I'm trying to think of anyone else. Them 3 have been our best players this season so far, and them 3 I would definitely start in the team 1,000,000%. The others that you got to worry about, It's the others that you have to worry about. But look, everyone's entitled to opinion. If you still don't think Onana's up to it, you're absolutely entitled to that. If you think that, that's fine. But I think we've moved on from the De Gea conversation now, haven't we? Whenever, oh, we got it wrong. I can't believe we got rid of De Gea. I can't believe it. Da, da, da. And now, silence. Utter silence. So, I think he's doing a great job. And I'm looking forward to this weekend as well to see how we get on against Everton. I want to see improvements. I think it's 2 games in. We can't be overly critical and we can't be overly excited, can we? We win in Europe. We had an entertaining game. And Rasmus is full of beans. So a successful day in my books if you're just looking at the game in isolation. Plenty of things to work on. Plenty of things to be excited about. You're like a kid at Christmas almost, aren't you? Because you want to see the next game now. I want to see how we operate, how we do against Everton. Can we go and get a win? Can we actually keep a clean sheet? Because we are still conceding goals. But look, it's such a busy weekend for the channel. We've got, so I'm just trying it off the top of my head now. We're recording Premier League predictions today, and we'll get that out hopefully for tonight. We've got the preview for the Everton game, which will drop tonight as well. We might end up doing that live a little bit later on. We've got stuff coming out on Saturday, which is like a little bit different, which could be potentially around Old Trafford. And then on Sunday, we've got all the pre-match and post-match reaction to the Everton game as well. And I'm going to try and get Alex on because he's an Everton fan, but he has quite literally just had a kid. So I'll see if we can get him on. I'd love to get him on to get his thoughts because I think he'll give a real good insight to Everton and how their season's going at the moment. So fingers crossed we can get him on. If we do, then you're set for a really, really good weekend for content on this channel. So appreciate absolutely everyone tuning in. Like I said, get your pros and cons in. If there is anything that I've missed or anything you disagree with, get it in the comments, whether you're watching this live or watching this later on, and we'll have a conversation about it as always. I was referring to his holding the ball too much and also handling the ball outside the box. Oh, good point. I didn't love that. He invited the pressure, but no harm done. Yeah, look, he's not the 10 out of 10 perfect mold of goalkeeper. There are certain situations where it's a little bit questionable, but for the majority of the most part, he's been good, hasn't he? So I'll stay off the Onana kind of not hate bus, but yeah. You take my point. Anyhow. Right, yeah, got a busy day, got loads of content to film and stuff, so I'm going to leave it at that. Appreciate anyone who's taken time out of the day this weekend to tune into the show. Hopefully, we'll see you guys in the same shows later on, because there's a couple coming out. So, appreciate yous. Take it easy. This has been Pros and Cons with me, myself.